Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. My name is Carlos Gomez, and I'm really honored of presenting this work on behalf of our group. And what we are going to do today is to synthesize the main results that we found after conducting that rigorous process that Miriam delineated before in her presentation. So I have no disclosures to declare. Brief pause. So as Miriam expressed, the pathway that we took in order to conduct this validity examination is that is based on an argument-based approach. And as such, what we did is actually to document the current uses and interpretations of the FLS program and to synthesize those findings in order to think and in order to envision what would be the role of FLS as it moves forward in the future. So as Marianne mentioned, and I'm going to build upon many of the concepts that she covered on her presentation, we envision 9 main claims, and those main claims, we organized them in 4 clusters. One of those clusters alluded to any aspect related as FLS as a program that encompasses like 3 parts: the cognitive test, the manual skills, and the didactics. Another one that only focuses on the cognitive test. Other claims that are more around the notion of measurement in the manual skills. And finally, we focus as well on aspects related with the scoring and the measurement. So different sources of information we use in order to analyze and to really explore what are the current uses of FLS and how we envision this in the future. So, and I just want to highlight the fact that we use a mixed methods approach in which we really dig into like the real conceptualizations around the uses of FLS. And most importantly, we hear the stakeholders, and I just wanted to take this a second to thank all the stakeholders for their generosity with their time and for allow us to know what their visions are with respect to FLS. So now I'm going to go into the results. So how we are going to present this is first I'm going to introduce like the main findings and then the evidence, or summarize the main evidence that is backing up the conclusions that we have for those findings. But something that was quite evident at the beginning of this examination is the fact that we really needed to revamp, to update the framework of reference that, in a nutshell, defines what constitutes a laparoscopic surgery procedure, regardless of the specialty, regardless of the procedure. And I think that's a work that it's in progress, and we have like the next presentation will go into more of the details of those competencies. But at the same time, we take advantage of this moment, and actually we wanted to incorporate like contemporary approaches to surgical education, and is that of competence-based education, in which we identify EPAs that will help us to really determine at the level of observable behaviors, what are the characteristics of the performance of a candidate who is performing at a fundamental level. So I'm going to tie this at the end of my presentation. So as I mentioned, we have a first finding, which is about the contributions of FLS, and it has been actually shown that the program is highly valuable and has greater potential for residency training. So after exploring the interviews from the different stakeholders, I think that 3 central themes emerged. The first one about the trustworthiness of FLS, in the sense that it reassures the programs, it reassures the supervisors that residents have the basic understandings of laparoscopic surgery in order to advance and build upon those competencies. The complexity actually is a comment that we are actually taking in order to particularly to revamp that framework of reference, is that sometimes this FLS is less relevant in some residency programs if and only if those residency programs have incorporated explicitly laparoscopic surgery as part of their curriculum. And in terms of the timing, there is an agreement that FLS is more effective, it's more appropriate, I would say it's more accurate, if it's taken before the PGY3 level. So if we move to the second key finding, is about this notion of fundamental, right? That is central to the program. So the definition of fundamental has changed since the program inception. And here we have different stakeholders like actually really exploring or examining exactly the same idea that is summarizing this quote from one of our interviews, in which, given the pervasiveness of laparoscopic procedures, that definition of fundamental has changed over the years, and as such, that fundamental need to change and need to be incorporated in any new editions, in new advances of FLS. With respect to the manual skills, something that is important to notice is that there is almost a total overwhelming agreement between different stakeholders that the manual skills are an integral part of FLS, but they need to be revisited. So in some cases, FLS is actually equated with those 5 manual skills, and even though there exists disagreement in terms of the importance of the task, there is also not as much agreement with respect to what is being measured, which is of those skills, and most importantly, how it relates to specific technical skills that are necessary in the operating room. So we conducted Think Aloud interviews in which different stakeholders hold different perceptions about the skills that were measured using those those tasks, sorry. And in terms of interviews that we conducted, it was really numerous interviewers commented that the extracorporeal node tying should be removed from the test. With respect to measurement, finding number 4, the way in which performance on manual skill measures should be revisited. And this is actually a representation of, again, re-evaluating what constitutes fundamental laparoscopic competency nowadays. So in that regard, the criteria used to measure performance could be optimized to capture additional aspects of the skills that are used by the candidates and ultimately by surgeons within the OR. And the manual skills could have a greater integration, more representation, more face validity in terms of those skills that are integrated naturally within the OR. The 5th finding is about the integration. And here there is really a potential for us to explore, and this is going to be covered in the different subsequent presentations in this session, is that there is limited integration between the different elements of the program, and that can actually be changed, and actually that's going to revitalize our program. So the different stakeholders consider that there are like 3 components, but sometimes they don't see the connection between those parts, even though they consider that the 3 are the whole comprises the FLS program. So the competencies assessed do not wholly integrate the essential tasks comprising the laparoscopic surgery, and this is something that we are going to explore as we move in the presentation and obviously in this new re-edition of FLS. And finally, it's something that many stakeholders mention about the face validity, that there is not like a perfect match between what they do in some aspects of those skills and on those tasks and the skills that they have to demonstrate within the OR. Finally, the cognitive exam measures fundamental aspects of laparoscopic surgery, and here we conducted several psychometric models in order to really explore the psychometric properties of those questions integrated in the cognitive test. Using different approaches, we concluded that the items don't discriminate different levels of competency, but that's actually something that is not surprising given the nature of this exam, which is at the fundamental level. We found that the overall performance over 10 years of using this test is around 91% of the test takers pass this test. Finally, in terms of the exam structure, so when running like different statistical approaches, we found that all the different questions are fitting into a main concept, a main construct, which arguably would be that of the fundamental knowledge for laparoscopic surgery. So after exploring all these different findings, we have actually concluded, and again, it has been an amazing work from many people, like spending many times of their spare hours on the day outside of the OR and outside of their not real, but their daily life. And what we concluded and where we landed was in developing a framework of reference that, as I mentioned in the introduction of my session, it's a fundament, is actually the foundation is that notion of entrustable professional activities. And here I'm just going to have like a couple of 1 minute, I guess, or less than a minute. So then you can actually see the different EPAs that we have envisioned here. Something that I want to call your attention is to the fact that they are not procedure specific. They are not attached to any particular surgical subspecialty, and actually they represent the big scope of what laparoscopic surgery works, right? And I think that this is one of the main findings that we have from our exploration, which is to really revamp that definition of laparoscopic surgery and using contemporary approaches that are currently really spread in the world of surgical education. Thank you very much.